The night was dark and stormy, the only sound being the heavy rain pounding against the pavement. Rostova and Ben crouched behind a dumpster, their eyes fixed on the highly secured facility in front of them. They had been planning this mission for weeks, gathering all the necessary information to stop the impending disaster. "We have to be careful," Ben said. "The security systems in this facility are top-notch. One wrong move and we will be caught." "I have been going over the layout," Rostova replied. "I think I can disable the alarms and cameras, but we need to move fast." Ben nodded, his eyes closed as he focused on his visions. He had a unique ability to see glimpses of the future, and it had proven to be invaluable in their missions so far. "I see a guard patrol coming from the left," Ben said. "We need to move now." Rostova sprang into action, sprinting across the parking lot with Ben right behind her. They reached the entrance of the facility just as the guard patrol turned the corner. Rostova quickly worked her magic, disabling the alarms and cameras as they slipped inside. They found themselves in a long, dimly lit hallway, the only sound being the hum of the ventilation system. Ben took the lead, his visions guiding them through the complex security systems. Rostova followed closely, her eyes scanning the surroundings, ready to take down any guard who might get in their way. As they moved deeper into the facility, the tension grew. They knew they were getting close to the core of the operation, and the mastermind behind the plot was not going to give up without a fight. "We are getting close," Ben said. "I can see a large door at the end of the hall. It is heavily reinforced." "That must be the entrance to the central control room," Rostova replied. "Let us get into position. We do not know what we are up against." They moved stealthily, avoiding guards and security cameras. Their hearts were racing with anticipation, but they knew they had to stay focused if they were going to succeed. They reached the door and took a moment to prepare themselves for what was to come. "Here we go," Ben said. "Let us do this." Rostova nodded, a determined look on her face. Together they steeled themselves for the final showdown, ready to face whatever lay ahead. With a deep breath, they pushed open the door and stepped into the unknown. The room was large and circular, with rows of computer terminals and control panels lining the walls. In the center of the room, a large screen displayed a countdown timer, the numbers ticking away with alarming speed. Rostova and Ben moved swiftly, their eyes scanning the room for any signs of danger. The mastermind behind the plot stood at the far end of the room, a smile spreading across his face as he watched them enter. He was a tall, slender man with a receding hairline and a pair of thick, black-rimmed glasses perched on the end of his nose. "Welcome, Rostova," he said. "I have been expecting you. You are just in time to witness the culmination of my plan." Rostova's eyes narrowed, her hand instinctively going to the gun holstered at her hip. Ben, however, took a step forward, his eyes fixed intently on the mastermind. "You are not going to get away with this," Ben said. "We are going to stop you, no matter what it takes." The mastermind chuckled, a cold, mirthless sound. He gestured to a group of guards stationed around the perimeter of the room, their guns drawn and trained on Rostova and Ben. "I think you will find that it is already too late," he said. "The plan is in motion and nothing can stop it now." Rostova's eyes flicked to the guards, her mind racing with strategies and tactics. She knew that they had to act fast before the guards opened fire. Ben, however, seemed to be focused on the mastermind, his eyes burning with a fierce determination. "We will see about that," Ben said. "You are not going to get away with this." The mastermind smiled again, his eyes glinting with amusement. He raised a hand and the guards took a step forward, their guns still trained on Rostova and Ben. "Let us see how long you last," he said. "Against my guards, against my plan. You are no match for me." Rostova and Ben stood tall, their hearts pounding with anticipation. They knew that they were in for the fight of their lives, but they were ready. They were determined to stop the mastermind, no matter what it took. With a sudden burst of speed, Rostova drew her gun and fired, taking out the nearest guard. Ben followed close behind, his visions guiding him as he dodged and weaved between the guards' bullets. The room erupted into chaos, the sound of gunfire and shouting filling the air. Rostova and Ben fought bravely, taking down guard after guard. But despite their best efforts, they soon found themselves surrounded, the guards closing in on them from all sides. "We have to get out of here," Rostova yelled. "We cannot take them all down." Ben nodded, his eyes scanning the room frantically. He spotted a ventilation shaft in the wall, partially hidden by a nearby console. "There," Ben shouted, "the ventilation shaft. We can escape through there." Rostova did not hesitate, sprinting towards the ventilation shaft with Ben right behind her. They climbed inside just as the guards opened fire, the bullets ricocheting off the metal walls of the shaft. They caught their breath, listening to the guards' frustrated shouts and curses. They knew that they had to keep moving to find a way to stop the mastermind's plan before it was too late. "We have to keep going. Rostova said we have to find a way to stop the countdown." Ben nodded, his eyes fixed on the ventilation shaft ahead. They began to crawl, their movements slow and careful as they navigated the narrow, winding tunnel. As they moved deeper into the shaft, the air grew thick with dust and the smell of grease. Rostova and Ben covered their mouths, trying to filter out the worst of it. "We have to be careful," Ben said. "We do not know where this shaft leads." Rostova nodded, her eyes scanning the darkness ahead. She knew that they had to be prepared for anything, that the mastermind could have set traps or guards along the way. They continued to crawl, their hearts pounding with anticipation. They knew that they were getting close to the heart of the facility and that the mastermind's plan was nearing its climax. Suddenly, Ben stopped, his head cocked to one side. Rostova froze, her ears straining to hear what Ben had heard. "What is it?" Rostova whispered. "What do you hear?" Ben's eyes were fixed intently on the wall of the ventilation shaft. "I hear the sound of machinery," he said. "It is coming from up ahead." Rostova's eyes narrowed, her mind racing with possibilities. They were getting close to the heart of the facility, and the sound of machinery could mean only one thing. "It is the device," Rostova said. "The mastermind's plan. We have to stop it." Ben nodded, his jaw set in determination. They began to crawl again, their movements slow and careful as they approached the source of the sound. As they turned a corner in the ventilation shaft, they saw it. The device was massive, a towering monolith of steel and wires that filled the entire room. Rostova and Ben exchanged a look, their hearts pounding with anticipation. They knew that they had finally reached the heart of the facility and that the mastermind's plan was within their grasp. But they also knew that they were running out of time, that the countdown was ticking away with alarming speed. They steeled themselves for what was to come, their determination and courage driving them forward. They were ready to face whatever lay ahead to stop the mastermind's plan and save the day. With a deep breath, they dropped down from the ventilation shaft, their guns drawn and ready. They were prepared to face whatever dangers lay ahead, to fight to the very end to prevent the impending disaster. The room was filled with a sense of tension and anticipation. Rostova and Ben moved stealthily, their eyes scanning the area for any signs of danger. They knew that they were in for the fight of their lives, but they were ready. "Let us do this," Ben said. "Let us stop the mastermind and save the day." Rostova nodded, a fierce determination burning in her eyes. Together they moved forward, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The room was large and circular, with a high ceiling that seemed to disappear into darkness. The walls were lined with computer terminals and monitoring equipment, and in the center of the room, a large screen displayed a countdown timer. Rostova's eyes widened as she took in the scope of the operation. "This is it," Ben said. "This is the central control room." Rostova nodded, her gaze fixed on the countdown timer. They had to act fast if they were going to stop the impending disaster. "We need to find the mastermind," Rostova said. "We need to know who is behind this." Ben scanned the room, his eyes searching for any sign of their target. And then he saw him, a figure standing at the far end of the room, watching them with a mixture of curiosity and amusement. "I see him," Ben said. "He is standing by the window." Rostova followed Ben's gaze, and her eyes locked onto the figure. He was tall and imposing, with a chiseled face and piercing blue eyes. He seemed to be enjoying the situation, and Rostova's instincts told her that he was a formidable opponent. "Let us go," Rostova said. "We need to put an end to this." Ben nodded, and together they moved towards the figure. As they approached, the figure turned to face them, a smile spreading across his face. "Welcome," he said. "I have been expecting you." Rostova's eyes narrowed, her hand on the gun at her hip. She did not like the look of this, and she knew that they had to be careful. "Who are you?" Rostova demanded. "What is your role in this operation?" The figure chuckled, his eyes glinting with amusement. "I am the one who has been pulling the strings," he said. "I am the mastermind behind this operation." Ben took a step forward, his eyes locked onto the figure. "You are not going to get away with this," Ben said. "We are going to stop you." The figure laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. "I do not think so," he said. "You see, I have a plan, and it is already in motion." Rostova's eyes flicked to the countdown timer, and her heart sank. They were running out of time, and they still did not know what they were up against. "What is your plan?" Rostova asked. "What are you trying to achieve?" The figure smiled again, his eyes glinting with triumph. "My plan is to create a new world order," he said. "A world in which I am the one in control." Ben's eyes widened in horror, and Rostova's grip on her gun tightened. They knew that they had to stop this man, no matter what it took. "We are not going to let that happen," Rostova said. "We are going to stop you." The figure laughed again, his eyes flashing with anger. "I do not think so," he said. "You see, I have a surprise waiting for you." And with that, the room was filled with the sound of alarms blaring and footsteps pounding. Rostova and Ben turned to see a team of heavily armed guards storming into the room, their guns trained on the two intruders. "It seems that the game is on," the figure said. "Let us see who comes out on top." They found themselves in a large room filled with computer screens and machines. The room was dimly lit, with a large window at the far end that looked out over the city. A figure stood in front of the window, looking out at the stormy night. The figure turned as they entered, a look of surprise on his face. He was a tall, thin man with a bald head and a scar above his left eyebrow. He was dressed in a black suit, and he looked like he meant business. "Welcome, Rostova and Ben," the man said. "I have been expecting you. My name is Victor, and I am the one who has been behind this entire operation." Rostova and Ben moved forward, their eyes fixed on Victor. They could see the confidence in his eyes, and they knew they had to be careful. "You are a hard man to find," Rostova said, "but we finally have you right where we want you." Victor smiled, a cold, calculating smile. "I do not think so," he said. "You see, I have a plan, and it is already in motion. Nothing can stop it now." Ben took a step forward, his eyes blazing with anger. "We will stop it," he said, "no matter what it takes." Victor laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. "You are too late," he said. "The plan is already underway. In just a few minutes, the city will be plunged into chaos." Rostova and Ben exchanged a look, and then they charged at Victor. He was caught off guard, and he stumbled backward as they attacked. The room erupted into chaos, with machines crashing to the floor and computer screens shattering. In the end, it was Rostova who managed to grab Victor and pin him to the floor. Ben stood over them, his chest heaving with exhaustion. "It is over," Rostova said. "Your plan has been foiled." Victor looked up at them, a look of hatred in his eyes. "This is not the end," he said. "There are others out there, and they will continue my work." Rostova and Ben exchanged a look, and then they smiled. They knew that they had saved the city, and that was all that mattered. "We will be ready," Ben said. "We will stop them, no matter what it takes." Victor struggled and kicked, but Rostova held him firm. Ben stood up, and then he walked over to the computer screens. He started typing away, trying to shut down the plan that Victor had put in motion. After a few tense moments, Ben turned away from the screens. "It is done," he said. "The plan has been stopped." Rostova stood up, Victor still held in her grip. "Let us get him out of here," she said. "It is time to bring him to justice." Ben nodded, and then they walked out of the room, Victor held between them. They made their way back through the facility, avoiding guards and security cameras. They finally emerged into the cool night air, the storm still raging around them. As they walked away from the facility, Rostova turned to Ben. "We make a good team," she said. "We should do this again sometime." Ben smiled, and then he nodded. "I would like that," he said. "Let us do it again sometime." They walked off into the night, ready for their next adventure. And as they disappeared into the darkness, a figure watched them from the shadows. The figure was a woman with long, curly hair and a mysterious smile. She was dressed in a black coat, and she looked like she meant business. "I will be watching you," she said to herself. "I will be waiting for you." The woman turned and walked away, disappearing into the night. Rostova and Ben did not see her, but they could sense that they were being watched. They quickened their pace, ready for whatever lay ahead.